Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with a live video for you. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. I have a guest joining me today. Many of you know him quite well. He runs the channel Celebrate Truth and is the organizer of the first ever International Flat Earth Conference, which was in North Carolina in 2017. And then he also did the Edmonton Flat Earth Conference and most recently the 2018 Flat Earth International Conference, which was in Denver. And today we're going to be discussing that particular event. So let me start by introducing Robbie Davidson to the show. Robbie, are you there? Are you with me?
I'm here. Thanks so much for having me on, Jaron. It's been, I think, 4 years since we've known each other, and this is the first time that you and I have done a show together, just you and I. So it's a real honor. Thank you so much.
All right, glad you're here. You're a little bit hot on the mic, but we'll see if people in the chat seem to think so or not. But it came in a little hot to me, but everything looks good. I'm glad that we are, it's good to have you with me. And you can start by just telling everybody where they can find you and your channel and maybe any other platforms where they can find your work.
Sure. I mean, on YouTube, it's Celebrate Truth. Also, my website, celebratetruth.org. Also, the Flat Earth International Conference, you can go to FEIC2018.com, and that's where you'll find information on the conference. But pretty much, you'll find the documentaries that I've done, and then also just coming out with my new book that I'll be talking more about on how that fits into the story when it comes into Logan Paul.
Okay, great. And one of the main reasons that we're deciding to have this conversation today is that I found out that I personally have been making some incorrect statements about the event. I'm talking about FEIC 2018, and in particular, the attendance of Logan Paul. And so I wanted to make sure that we set the record straight and give Robbie basically the opportunity to tell the real story, since I was saying some things incorrectly recently. For example, I have said over the past few weeks a statement that I thought was true, and it turns out that I've been wrong. But after seeing an article posted on the, I believe it was the Verge website, that Logan Paul was paid to attend the Flat Earth Conference. And then I jumped on and had a live stream, and I think I've also mentioned it on Globebusters and on Raw, that I said that he wasn't paid, but in fact that he and his friends all bought VIP tickets. And I'm going to go ahead and let you tell the story, since I am incorrect in stating that. That's what I thought was true. But why don't you tell everybody exactly how this all went down? And then just so people know what we'll be doing after you tell us all the correct version of events, the true story, what I want to do is first watch the Logan Paul trailer for his video Flat Earth to the Edge and Back, which is a documentary that's coming out on March the 20th. We'll watch that trailer real quick, and then I want to go through your interview with Logan Paul that you did, I believe, at the conference, and kind of go through a few of those segments and discuss them a little, and then that'll be about it. But go ahead and just start out by telling everybody, let's just talk about the event, FEIC, and how Logan Paul got invited, or whether he was invited, or how he invited himself. But let's just go through and kind of knock that out.
Okay, sure. Let's get into the story, because I think it's really important for the community and everyone to understand exactly the sequence of events that led up to Logan Paul coming to the conference. And I really want to kind of lay it out so everyone knows firsthand this is truly what happened. I mean, the only people that really knew what was going on was me and my wife. Jaron can attest to the fact that I'm very good at keeping a secret, and I can be trusted if people want that. And I'll let you know exactly why that was the case and what was said. But getting into it, what had happened was that some group tickets came in, and normally, I was just sitting on the couch, and I was like, okay, I just looked at the names, no big deal. It wasn't until I was in my office and on the desktop computer where I noticed that there was a name there that I'm like, wait a minute, that rings a bell, Logan Paul. And when I saw the email address, it was a legitimate company email address. I'm like, no way, somebody actually has to be punking me. There's no way this is Logan Paul. I mean, why, would he just buy tickets to a conference? It made no sense. But what really was striking, wasn't just the email, it was the phone number, because when you actually pay for tickets through a company on PayPal, there's a number in case there's any problems or issues. You're able to get a hold of someone, and before it goes into mediation. Anyways, there was a phone number listed, and people that know me well know that I'm a phone guy. I'm really not good with emails, so I wouldn't have emailed and found out, hey, is this truly Logan Paul or whatever? But because there was a phone number, I gave the number a call right that second, and a woman answered. And she's like, hello? And it was funny. I don't know why in the world I said this, but I said, "Is Mr. Paul there?" So you think, I mean, I'm sure very few people call him Mr. Paul, but I just said, "Is Mr. Paul there?" And she's like, "No, no one here by that name." And I'm like, "Logan?" And she's like, "No, I think you got the wrong number." And I said, "Okay, all right." And I was about to hang up, and she goes, "Wait, what's this regarding?" And I said, "Tickets." And she says, "Tickets for what?" And I said, "The Flat Earth International Conference." That's when she proceeded to tell me exactly who she was and how she is the gatekeeper, just to make sure, because obviously a lot of people try to get in contact with Logan. And she says, "Yes, I was the one that just purchased those tickets." I'm like, "Oh, interesting." I said, is Logan like, totally into this?" Logan's really fascinated by it, she told me. She said that Mike, his best friend, has really been bugging him. And because he's going to be in in Denver doing some things, it was a great opportunity. So Mike's been hounding him and bugging him. And Mike really doesn't know how to articulate flat Earth, but he knows there's a lot to be looking into. So he's like, "Look, I can't explain it. You come to the conference. This is the perfect opportunity so that we can all, just check it out." Because Logan was very fascinated. He was familiar with, obviously, with Shane Dawson. They're somewhat, in the same circles.
Right.
And he knew that the conspiracy theories were huge. Now, Logan Paul told me that he is, kind of a conspiratorial kind of guy. He likes digging into things. He doesn't want to come off ignorant. He always wants to ask those questions. He told me, quite honestly, he's not, but he's interested, just like you'll see in the interview, where he's open to learn. So anyways, while I was talking to Danny, his assistant.
Real quick, you can see my screen, I think. Is this who we're talking about here, the guy on the right?
Correct, Mike, with the black hat. That's his best friend. And I said backstage to Logan, I said, "Is Mike, your best friend?" He goes, "Dude, he lives with me." Right? He goes, "Absolutely." So that was one thing that I knew at that point, that why in the world would Logan want to make fun of his best friend? Because Mike, honestly, he really believes in it. Now, people will attack Mike and say, "Well, he doesn't know how to articulate it and he can't be a spokesperson for Flat Earth." And I don't think that's what Mike is. Mike is just trying to articulate it the best way he can. That's why he was encouraging him to come to the experts, come to the people that could explain this the best. And that's exactly what Logan did for him. Logan was doing it as a personal favor. Danny told me that he was doing it. Mike really wanted it, was encouraging him, and Logan just didn't have time to watch hours and hours of YouTube videos, right? And this is the thing that you're going to find with a lot of these type of people that are going to come out with documentaries. They're not going to get to the levels of, what most of us have got to in the last 2-3 years. They're going to be on a very elementary level. Oh yeah, this or that. So, when Mike says a couple things, I think in the clip, people will say, "Well, wait a minute, he said this or said that." I do know that in their correspondence, even at the conference, they were very good with many people, not including just myself, but also Alex, Flat Earth Man. They had a very good dialogue. David Weiss, Deep Side the Rabbit Hole. Right. There were interactions that went on. But let's continue on the story, because this is where it gets very interesting. Okay. So originally it was Logan and his 3 friends. It was Logan, Mike, and 2 other guys. There was no camera crews. Even Danny, his assistant, wasn't coming. And this is Logan's core team. Logan's got a few teams that he works with. This is his core team that he grew up with, because afterwards, when I was talking with him with Rick Hummer, they actually grew up in the same area where Rick Hummer was. And I don't know if they knew similar people, but they kind of knew, that area. It was really intriguing. We were talking with the whole bunch of them outside, and Rick was there. They had watched the whole Roll and Ready thing, and they thought it was awesome. They were just blown away by the whole Roll and Ready entrance, the whole video they put together, that Eru. Right. And, Rick Hummer did the night before. It's like, "Dude, you did that the night before?" And they were blown away, because Logan comes from an editing background. So he was like, "Props to you, man." He goes like, that was well done. And it really impressed their crew. And I mean, Logan's editor and his team are pretty sophisticated in what they do on YouTube when they want to do something right. So I said, "So like, is he just interested?" "Yeah, he's just like interested at this point." And I said, "Okay, just to let you know, I have no problem, if you want to suggest to Logan, if I have no problem, giving you media credentials if you want to document a bit," because I said it might be interesting if Logan is just coming purely as, to learn more. Maybe he wants to document it. It might be a nice idea. She goes, that sounds like a great idea. She's like, I'll talk to Logan and I'll get back to you. So what happened was, a couple of days later, she gets back to me. She said, "Logan loves the idea. He's very, very thankful. Thank you so much. He really appreciates, your generosity." I was the one that bumped them up to VIP. I said, "Also, I want to bump you guys up to VIP. I want you to have the treatment. I want you to make sure that, you're treated well and stuff like this." So if anything, what I did is I bumped them from general admission to VIP. I did that. So if I'm going to be accused for anything, that's exactly what I did. But I think in the position that anyone would be in, why wouldn't you give them, that treatment? So anyways, she goes, what? Logan really likes the idea. He's very, very thankful. He's very interested in kind of documenting it. And he's thankful that you're going to allow him to, shoot some stuff there and talk to a few people and stuff. I'm like, great. So it literally was like, I don't know, an hour later, all of a sudden 4 more tickets come in. I didn't even know at this point that Danny was included. It was Danny, his assistant, and now his 3 camera guys. So what I want to say, first of all, because I don't think even, when I got talking with Mark Sargent, there were a couple things that he didn't even know about the story. And, once he heard it, he's like, and Mark and I are great. We've talked. Everything's good. Mark's going to be at Dallas at the Flat Earth International Conference 2019. We're all good. But what I'm saying is there were a lot of things that people really didn't understand in the story. And that's why I want to do this. And I'm going to be doing this after the documentary comes out, because good or bad, I definitely will be able to be transparent and genuine and be able to go from there. So anyways, 4 more tickets come in. And that was really strange to me.
Robbie,
she didn't like...
Robbie,
sorry.
Hold on real quick. Just I want to make sure that we're on the same page here. So really, I wasn't incorrect in saying that certainly he was not paid to be there. Like
absolutely. There was no. I mean, I don't think that this would have ever occurred. There would be no documentary. There would be nothing going on. It would have been him and 3 friends, curious, with no cameras, coming, checking out a few sessions, and going, man, Mike, those guys kind of made sense. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. That's all what would have happened. Some people would have recognized Logan. They would have took a couple selfies, but he had no camera crews, and his assistant, and that's his core team, came. I was the one that, if anything, offered it, and I said, hey, if he's interested, why doesn't he document his journey? If he's just interested and he's curious, because she told me point blank, he is very intrigued by this topic.
Right.
He's been, Mike's been talking to him. He's been watching the odd videos. He's been checking out Shane Dawson, other people, and he knows that it's not just some silly theory, because he knows people that he didn't even mention to me that are really starting to reach out to him and saying, dude, like, you got to look into this a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
There's something here. He's like, really? And I think even in his transparency in the interview that I did with him, you can really see him, he's kind of going through what I explained some ways in Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin hasn't come out as a flat earther, right? But I'll tell you one thing, Owen Benjamin gets a heck of a lot more love than what Logan Paul, and I'll talk a little bit more about just the way the community reacted. And, I pray and hope that Logan Paul really didn't look too much into what the community was saying about him, because, most people, I think it would be a deterrent. And I think that in future, regardless who comes forward, curious, wanting to look into flat earth, regardless, I think that we have to show them love. We have to show them something different than what the world is showing them, just because, it goes a long way. It's not just the content. It's like, what are these people like? And he wanted to know the people. He came to check out the community, but also get the information. He told me that as well. So anyways, so the 4 more tickets come in. Now it's full on. It's full on, right? They're going to come. They're going to document it. It's great. So all of a sudden, leading up to it, I said, great, I'm going to announce it, everything like this. Logan, basically, in a nutshell, did not want his name mentioned. And this is exactly his words. He did not want to turn the conference into a Logan Fest. He said, listen, Mike says that a lot of these people are doing important work. I don't want the focus to change. I don't want to make light of it in the sense that all of a sudden the attention becomes Logan Paul, Logan Paul. I said, well, you know what? You're going to be noticed if you come to the conference.
Right.
He goes, yes, but they won't be able to assemble crews and big stories. Yes, I know that there'll be things that will happen, but it won't be like there'll be, 2,000 people out the front doors, because Logan Paul is now announced and he's going to be there, and here's a chance to get a selfie or an autograph. So he really did respect the conference. Yeah, he really did.
Let's be honest that if that did happen, that it did come out ahead of time, then that's exactly what would have happened. There would have been a whole media circus there. And
he knew it. He knew it. He knew it. And I he's done a few things in the past where you can see thousands of screaming fans when he shows up, a 2-week advance notice. And furthermore, if I was about tickets and sales and money, I would have leaked it. I would have leaked it just to get another 200 sales. So I said, I think that speaks to my integrity a little bit, not to mention that I gave them my word. I said, you have my word. And you can attest to that, because it drove you, David Weiss, Mark Sargent, everyone crazy wanting to know who this person was. Yeah. And I kept it right to the day. I'll say this, though. The only thing that people got out of me was you and David Weiss, because you guys kept haunting me in a fun way. I basically said 2 things. I think I said it was a man, and with David Weiss, I said he's white. Because David Weiss was asking, well, give me this clue. And you said, can you tell me if it's a man or a woman? So the only 2 clues that came out before he arrived was he's a man and he's white. But also, my only thing that I put forward, and you can attest to this, Jaron, as well as any of the speakers, I said this person has millions and millions of fans.
Right.
That's what I said.
Right.
That was my only clue. So this whole idea that I was telling everyone that it was an A-list celebrity from Hollywood, that was just the community going crazy,
right.
And that never came from me. But anyways, let's go back a little bit. So close to the conference, I get an email from Danny, and it says, Logan's requesting if you have any time in your schedule, he would love to go up for a couple of minutes and speak on day 2. Now, here's the only time in this process where the red flags went up. This is the part that I sat down with my wife and I said, whoa, this is a little bit more serious now, because Logan's not just coming to the conference. Now he's going to go up and say, a couple words on stage for 2 minutes if I can squeeze him in.
Right.
He never asked for this. I never offered it. He said, if you have a few minutes, I'd love to go up and say a couple words on day 2. And I said, well, why not the first day? Because I didn't want to take it all in before I can speak on it. So that was another thing that got me. I was like, oh, interesting. He wants day 2 because, he wants to learn some more information. How do you speak, properly about what's experience if he goes on the beginning of day 1, right? So it made sense. But I also knew that here's the time. If he is going to do the biggest hit piece ever on the community, my goodness, what an amazing thing to get up on stage and just rip, right? Rip and roar. You're right there. Spotlights are on you. The cameras are there. And now you make everyone look like idiots. And he never did. Right. So anyway, so leading up to that, that's the only time. So I reached out to Danny, because most of my correspondence is through Danny, by the way. It's through his assistant. He's so incredibly busy. This guy has no time to be watching hours of YouTube videos. I mean, heck, I don't think he has time to watch a 15-minute video. So he's getting it from sources in his busy schedule. He's trying to take it in because Mike says it's important. He thinks it's important, and we'll get into that real soon. So let's go speed up here a little bit. Anyways, so that was the case. They were going to come to the conference. They were going to take it in. If there was some time in the schedule, he was going to speak on day 2. So I guess we're currently caught up now to everything that transpired based on the fact that him and 3 friends were going to come to the conference. And had I not called a phone number, if that phone number wasn't on that PayPal, group ticket order, this would never, ever happen, because I do not believe Logan Paul would have ever reached out to me.
Okay, good. That's good to know, and I do stand corrected, because I did. I was under the assumption that they had purchased VIP tickets, mostly because I just figured, hey, here's a guy who's got loads of money and loads of friends, and if he's coming to the event, he's most certainly paying for VIP. But now I understand that basically that was something that you upgraded them to once you realized who it was, and that he has the kind
absolutely. I would do it again. If someone's going to take in the whole experience and stuff, I want to definitely treat them well, and they can be my personal guests, if anything. I mean, if I want to label it VIP or say they're my personal guests, so be it. But again, I definitely wanted to make sure that I rolled out the red carpet as much as I could, seeing the fact that he didn't demand media. He purchased tickets. He's the only people with cameras that purchased tickets. All other media never paid a cent.
Right.
And here's another thing. They said that they wanted to support the work that was being done.
Right.
I thought that was another respectful thing. So all along the way, it was very respectful in their answers and everything. The only hesitant thing I was the stage. That was the only time that I was like, yikes, and I needed some assurances from Danny, and she gave them. And I'll tell you, everyone saw what happened on stage, and he basically followed through with his word that he wasn't going to be, making us all look like idiots on stage, and he never did.
Right. And so in total, then you had 8 people that actually purchased regular price tickets to go to the event.
They did, yeah. They did general admission. So altogether, after I had been in a discussion with them, they had purchased 8 in total.
Okay, yeah, I think that's awesome, and as many people as there is that doesn't like Logan Paul for whatever their individual reasons might be, I think people need to recognize, and at least I recognize it because I can look at my analytics, that one of the demographics that this is not reaching well, and at least I can only speak on behalf of my channel. I can't really speak on behalf of yours, but is that 18 to 25 age group. By far my lowest demographic as far as who watches my videos. It's in the very low percentages, like 1, 2, 3% of my viewers are that younger age, and that's who Logan Paul makes videos for. So to me, this is exciting in the fact that he's talking about it. He's coming out with this documentary. We're going to be taking a look at the trailer here shortly. But I think that when you've got the idea that here's this guy who caters to that younger demographic, and that's who we want to hear these words. And I think, I'll talk about it a little bit when we listen to your interview. But, you said a lot of important things in that interview. One of the things that you didn't say was you need to believe us. You need to trust us. You said the complete opposite. And this is where I think that the mainstream is confused about what's going on. To call Flat Earth dangerous, to call this documentary that's coming out to be dangerous, they don't understand what we're saying, which is do the research yourself. Go look into this yourself. Go test things yourself. Go make observations yourself. Nobody is saying, believe us, we need to teach this in schools. This needs to be in school books tomorrow. Nobody's saying that. So it's not dangerous. The only dangerous thing about it is that somebody's awfully afraid of people talking about the Earth possibly not being a sphere. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And again, his reach is pretty massive when you consider almost 20 million subscribers on YouTube. And I think combined with his social media, he's close to 60 million. And again, the articles that I've seen coming out are saying, look, even if he approaches this topic even in a light fashion, this is dangerous. Many people, even the media knows how many people are going to start looking into this. It's going to pique their curiosity.
Yeah, and I see some super chats coming in. We'll read those all at the end. So if you do have any questions for Robbie, you can try them there, or you can put them in the chat. And if we have time, we'll take a look. But I do want to get to that trailer, and then I do want to also highlight the interview. And Robbie, that interview in full is on your channel, correct? And the name of that video is Logan Paul Talks to Robbie Davidson, exclusive Flat Earth interview. It was posted on November 19th, 2018. And so the link for that is in the description, and we're going to go ahead and watch that here in a second. But any words before we watch the documentary trailer?
No, I mean, let's just go into the trailer. I mean, we could talk more about just what we experienced at the conference with Logan, and then also my opinions on what we're about to see as what he releases, because I still go on the record that he is not, and I mean not coming out as a flat earther, but is he coming out to completely make it look foolish? No, I don't believe he is.
All right, let's go ahead and watch this trailer now. Go ahead and sit back, and we will. It's only about 2.5 minutes, so let's watch the entire thing. Here we go.
Conspiracy theories. We've all heard them.
Global warming, it's a hoax.
Who killed John F. Kennedy?
But even crazier, people that actually believe them.
I'm gonna say this as a friend. Do you think the Earth is flat?
The Earth is flat.
Believe the Earth is flat? Earth is flat.
Satan's greatest lie.
Destruction.
The world that we're living in has been misdescribed.
What shape is the Earth?
Flat. Think that the Earth's flat, because if it wasn't flat, then we would all be falling off of it.
It gives me great pleasure to announce for the 2018 Third Flat Earth International Conference, this many people can start questioning the reality. The truth sets you free. The truth sets you free.
The evidence they presented that they did go to space is nonsense.
Do you acknowledge that other planets are round?
I don't acknowledge that other planets are planets.
People could think that it's round is because the shape of your eye is round.
We don't have toilet water flying out on people in Australia because of gravity.
When you're taught that you just came from nothing, because the scientific narrative is nothing exploded and created everything. And we're crazy.
I didn't know any of this stuff before I came here, and
You're still learning.
The truth sets you free.
I can teach you some things.
It's tough because you've been told something your whole life and you've been a certain way, right?
Stop becoming a flat earther.
I'm not saying I am.
man, Robbie, I just don't know what to believe anymore.
The truth sets you free. The truth sets you free. The truth sets you free. The truth sets you free.
My name is Logan Paul, and I think I'm coming out of the flat earth closet.
And we are being set free.
All right, so there it was, and you can see that documentary is coming. Whoops, hold on one second. It's coming March 20th, 2019. Let me see what's going on here. I think I lost Robbie. Let me try and get him back. 1 second. Jeez, that's a little bit loud. All right, you back? You there?
Yep.
Okay, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. But so anyway, that documentary is coming out March 20th, 2019. We just watched the trailer for it. And so what did you think of the trailer, Dave? Robbie?
I mean, overall, I think it's exactly the way that it's going to be presented. I think that, Logan will bring up a lot of interesting facts. Now, will he come out straight and say that this is the truth? I don't believe so, but I think he's going to go the Shane Dawson route, where he's going to bring up a lot of information, and at the end, you're going to see him struggle and I really don't know. And like I said, the mainstream media are already saying that this is even dangerous. If he does not take a firm stance and say this is ridiculous, this is false, and it shouldn't be entertained, they're saying it's dangerous either way. But overall, I thought it was good. I'm anticipating the documentary, but even the trailer, I was pretty pleasantly surprised at how it was presented.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I thought that it was a good trailer. I thought it was gripping from a video creator standpoint. I thought that it was well put together and definitely intriguing and definitely something that a lot of people are looking forward to. And I'm somebody who doesn't think that it is a hit piece. Again, could I be wrong? Could that video come out and just be laughing at Flat Earth? Could be. But then again, like Robbie said, one of his best friends is very into the theory, is looked into it a lot. Now, he may not be able to articulate it really well, which is to be expected. I mean, a lot of people... at least as many people as we know, we're all raised in the globe belief. And so it becomes something that's very tough. And even myself or people that have put 4 years of research into this are still not at a place yet where they feel comfortable talking about it in all situations and all circumstances. It's a tough thing to talk about. It definitely goes against everything that anybody was taught. And so it's quite a big eye-opener. But what I wanted to do is I want to kind of highlight your interview with him. And again, the name of this video is Logan Paul Talks to Robbie Davidson, exclusive Flat Earth interview. It's on the Celebrate Truth channel. It is linked in the description, so if you want to watch it in its entirety, it's about 25 minutes. And I've just cut out a few sections that I wanted to highlight because I think they're important. Let's start with just this little conversation. Basically, the question that's being asked is whether or not you're the founder of the Flat Earth movement. So let's go ahead and hear your answer.
Okay, very cool. And like I said, you're not the founder of the Flat Earth movement. Do you know who is?
There really isn't like a founder of the Flat Earth, because if you go back, there were all these people that were always questioning science, but something took place massively in about 2014, 2015, and I can't really explain it, but it was almost like this awakening took place, because right across all spectrums, people just started waking up. And it wasn't just non-religious, religious, everyone of all different walks of life just started waking up.
For you, is it a religious thing?
For me, myself, yeah, I'm a Christian. I identify with taking the literal interpretation of the Bible. So for me, that really was the number one reason. But what I was blown away with was looking at all the evidence from a scientific standpoint and also connecting the dots. Things weren't adding up. The fact that they've never been back to the moon in almost 50 years, what's up with that?
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology, and it's a painful process to build it back again.
So I thought that was excellent and well put, Robbie, and I think that many people can't quite grasp the fact that for some of us it is a religious idea, and for some of us it's not. And you and I are great examples of that, two ends of the spectrum,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's important to convey, because if you come off just one direction, then they might be just turned off by that. If you just say, "Oh, it's 100% a religious thing or a biblical thing," absolutely it is. But it also, you can hit it with three different spectrums. When I do interviews, I tell that there's three major groups that come to the conferences or that are in the community itself. You've got the religious, you've got the conspiratorial, but you've also got the scientific minded that only care about the real, true, empirical, method and getting back to real science. So it's really baffling the media. And I mean, I've talked with a lot of people, and that's why they're scratching their head, because this is not just some crazy conspiracy. This is not just some, crazy religion. They've got three major groups of people. And like I said, it represents so many different walks of life. And I think that's what is blowing away people everywhere. They're trying to put us in a box, and yet they can't.
No, they can't. And, David Weiss and I have talked about it a lot on Raw, that, both of us think there's so many other evidences that we don't need to use the Bible. And so I never need to use it as any kind of proof of the earth being flat. Is it an ancient book? Did the book definitely convey the earth to be fixed? Does the book definitely say that the earth cannot be moved? Absolutely. So, I would be dumb to say, the Bible is not a flat earth book. It certainly talks of a stationary earth. It talks of a created earth. And those things to me are quite true. So I don't think that I need to definitely, me particularly, don't need to reach into that bag. But you do a good job of that. Rob Skiba does a great job of that. If people are looking for the religious connection, it's there. If people have bad feelings about religion or they don't want to look at it in that way, well, there's other channels like myself, like David Weiss, and many others who say we don't need to use that evidence or that proof, that we can move on to the other things. And yeah, could you call them scientific? Sure, but I think when you realize that science has been hijacked, which is what a lot of flat earthers believe, that it's not a matter of getting necessarily back to science, because science has been hijacked, and the true scientific method is not being used anymore. It's being taught, but then what happens is that they teach you these things, these concepts, and say that they've gone through the scientific method. Now, from our perspective, we're just coming at it and saying, okay, can we see some of these evidences? Can we see some of these proofs? And let's move on to the next section, because I think it gets into that a little bit more.
Sure.
This question here was going to talk about when you're basically taught to think a certain way. And I think that Logan Paul here really says it well. Let's go to 440. Here we go. And let's start from here.
That's why I try to keep an open mind. And the first thing you said is there's a lot of evidence. I'm just like, I don't know if, as I've seen before, and as it's been told in history, if you're told something your whole life and taught to think a certain way, it makes me very skeptical, and that's why I'm here, because I kind of open my eyes to it all. But so what, in your opinion, is the most damning piece of scientific evidence for you that is clear that the Earth is flat?
I would say that we were seeing way too far. On a ball of 24,900 miles in circumference, at 100 miles away, Logan, it's 1.4 miles below the curvature of the Earth. We're zooming in on objects that are 400 or 500 miles away. It's an impossibility. We shouldn't be able to see that far. And then this year, infrared is starting to explode. We're able to see even further. So, I was just doing an interview and I was saying the same thing. I'm like, listen, either the ball is 50 times bigger, and they lied to us about the ball, it's just bigger, or we're flat, because everywhere we look, it's flat. Water always finds its level. Another compelling thing, look at the properties of water. It's always flat.
So
I thought that was well said, Robbie, there too. A lot of people think that when we're saying, oh, well, the Earth could be much bigger, then they all come back and say, oh, so it could be a ball. My problem with that is, well, it still tells us that all the photographs that were so-called from space are incorrect. Right.
Correct. And that was my response to him. And he got that. He nodded his head. I said, basically, then everything else will be wrong. We got to start from scratch. And he agreed. He's like, yeah, that's pretty much a good answer. Correct. Even me coming back and saying, well, are you open and honest to admit that maybe the ball is bigger? And I said, sure. But then they've still been lying to us.
Right. Yeah, grossly. So I could see where people might get confused on that one. And the reason why is because if we can see too far, there's really only two options. One of those options is that the ball is much, 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 much bigger. If it's 5 times as big or something, well, then, yeah, you're right. You're not going to ever be able to see curvature or measure curvature. But they give us a size. And that's the problem, is that when you take the size that we're given and you start working in some of these distant observations, we're seeing things simply too far. And then you've got observations like the one that was done in Monterey that I've talked about a million times, where we're able to see a mirror reflection of the sun at 13.5 miles, where there should be some 35-foot obstruction of a hump of water in between the two shores. Clearly, if you're seeing the reflection of the sun in a mirror, then that's a straight line observation. You have a line of sight. And if you have a line of sight across 13.5 miles from shore to shore, we've got problems. So I thought that was really well said. Let's go ahead and continue, because I think it gets into some other interesting points here.
You're willing to admit that the ball, if it's a ball, might be bigger than what they've...
What I'm saying is every picture that we've seen, all the scientific research to this date would be wrong, right? What I'm saying is either it's monstrously bigger, because everywhere we look, even at 1,000 miles away seeing objects, you just start looking at the math and it gets dangerous when you start talking about distances of that. You're getting into 10, 15, 20 miles below the curvature of the Earth. And then you got the meteorologists coming forth and saying, oh, what you're seeing here is a mirage, right? Yeah. Well, we know what mirages look like, man. Yeah. They're inverted, they're upside down, they're wavy. I'm just telling you right now, we're seeing way too far, if we were on a ball. And again, a lot of people just are being very skeptical of the fact that we're this flying ball running through space. Again, it's just not computing with a lot of people. The distances, the speeds that we're traveling, you start looking into how fast we're actually traveling, not just spinning, but we're traveling around the sun, and then the entire galaxy's moving. It's unbelievable. But
did I lose you again? Robbie, you're there. Don't know what happened to Robbie. I lost him for a second. I'll try and call him back here in a second, but let's go ahead and continue on.
Here's the thing, and I think this is the most important thing. When you're taught that you just came from nothing, because the scientific narrative is nothing exploded and created everything. And we're crazy. They'd rather believe that nothing created all this. We're saying something different, that maybe there was an intelligence behind it. So for me, I think that's really compelling. But again, it gives people no dignity, no value. They're just evolved animals that are just gonna die. When all of a sudden you start looking into the fact that maybe everything in the sky was put in place for us, there's value. Maybe there's something out there that's actually watching over top of us. So again, for me, it changes your entire worldview, because now you're going, wait a minute, there's something going on here. And maybe they've been trying to hide the fact they didn't want you to know the true identity of what we all were, the fact that there was a creator and that we are special and unique, and that everything that we see in the sky was made for us, not that we're just some random planet and billions of other trillions of galaxies.
All right, I thought that was, again, really well said. Let me try it again. Here, I don't know why we keep losing Robbie. Goodness. You back?
I'm here.
All right, good. I don't know what's going on with that.
I don't know what's going on either. It's like really bad, but this one actually seems pretty choppy too.
All right, well, hopefully we can continue on. But yeah, we just finished listening to you talk a little bit about the idea of the worldview, which I think is the biggest point in the entire Flat Earth conversation. And that's why I think it's more of a philosophical conversation really a lot of the time, because what it comes down to is that these guys who consider themselves scientific had a worldview, and that worldview could not in any way ever say that the Earth was important, that the Earth was central, that the Earth was the center of the universe, that everything revolved around us. They would never let that happen. So a lot of people, they might get stuck on that idea because they don't realize that science has a worldview. They've had it for a long time. That worldview is that, like you said, nothing exploded and created everything that there is. And we're coming along and saying, well, hold on a second now. Let's rethink this. Let's look at this again. Let's point out some of the scientific fallacies and some of the pseudoscience that's been used for years to convince people that they live on a ball. And then you get into the all the way that we're raised and the way that every movie begins with the globe, and every classroom has a globe sitting on the desk. And when you really talk about, and Logan Paul said it great there, he said throughout history, it has been proven that when you teach a certain way of life, or you teach a certain mindset to people, that becomes part of their belief system, and they have an incredible time, an impossible time really shedding that. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like, even just sitting down with him, that he's earnestly looking for those answers. And I still feel that he's going to be presenting those, just like, when he brought out the globe in my interview there. And, he basically says, well, what do you think about this? So, while is he at a level where he's going to come out just 100%? No, but the amount of exposure on this is just going to be astonishing, and people can take it and say, well, wait a minute, it's bad, or it's making fun of flat earthers. Well, that's left to be decided. I think that, people have really rushed so quickly to, basically accuse Logan when the documentary hasn't even been released. Right. So people are willing to, attack him based on that. And yet it hasn't even been released. But again, I'm not like a fan in the sense of saying that he's the greatest spokesperson or this is going to be the greatest thing ever. What I am saying, however, though, is if he gets people even just questioning things and going, that's an interesting point, and they kind of wrestle with it just the way he's wrestling through it. Because what I do know is it's going to be a journey of Logan, learning more and more about what flat earthers believe. And I was there to at least tell him what we don't believe.
Right.
The idea that we're going to fall off the edge. To me, I say this all the time. It's not even so much articulating all the answers. Sometimes at this point right now, the best thing we can do is educate people. And if they're going to laugh, at least laugh at what we do believe, not at what we don't, because we would all laugh together, the idea that we're a flying pancake in space. So I take the opportunities to at least help them understand that, wait a minute, but we don't believe that.
Right. No, and I think you do a good job of pointing that out and saying that. So let's continue on. We'll go to 9:40. Oops, I guess we lost you again. I don't know. Reconnecting, poor network.
Other things that have come out, and it's been phenomenal. I think the Logan Paul is going to do even better.
Okay, we're going to continue on. I lost you there for a second, so we missed a little bit of what you said at the end, but let's continue on to this part of the conversation. You did go on to talk about Elon Musk, which I thought was important, just to mention that a lot of people think that SpaceX is some private space organization, and Elon Musk has himself admitted that that he needed to give full backroom access to all his computer systems to 300 government officials. So there's no way it's a private organization. Who knows what they went in and set up in his computer systems? And we know that he basically also is basically run on subsidies and government money. So let's continue on. Did we lose you again? Really weird. I'm going to try and call you again. Don't know why we keep losing you. sound is fully annoying. All right, let's continue on. We're going to listen to from 9:45.
Maybe that moon is smaller than what we've been taught, just like the sun. We believe the sun and the moon are the same size, just like they appear in the sky. They say, oh, they're further away, millions above. They're the same, man. They're both lights. They do different things, but they're the same size.
I just had to pause it there because it's really great that you got him to just really think. Again, the sun and moon are the same size in the sky, and yet they've told people instead that, oh, the sun is actually 400 times further, the sun is actually 400 times bigger. And when people actually go and try and look for the evidence of where we got the size of the sun, that's when you find out that they got the size of the sun when they estimated the size of Venus, which is just a light in the sky, and they said, well, what if Venus was the same size of Earth? And then they drew up this whole mathematical idea, all based on these lights in the sky. They have no proof of the distance to the sun, and they have, unless you believe in the moon landings, which we're going to get to here shortly, no proof of the distance to the moon. So let's continue.
It's kind of crazy stuff, man, but I'll tell you, man.
I'm sort of like scared. Because there's some tomfoolery happening.
Yes.
What would happen if like someone took you up into space and you hypothetically, of course, saw around Earth?
Well, hypothetically, it's not going to happen because you and I, even Logan Paul, is not going to space. You could be.
I want him.
Okay, but then, like I said, you try your hardest and see if you can do it.
Can anyone get me to space?
There you go.
If you have a ticket to space, please send me up.
And this is important too, I think, Robbie. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Okay. I think it's important because this is what I've always said, and this is kind of the reasons that I've done my videos, is that I'm never going to be able to afford a trip to space. I'm not going to be able to afford to cross Antarctica. I'm not going to be able to go down there and see if there's a 24-hour sun, and not when, a trip to just to see the penguins at the very edge there's, $30,000 for one person. It's just not going to happen. But there are people out there that do have the kind of money that it would take to orchestrate some sort of thing like that, or to possibly get into space, and it's somebody like Logan Paul. So I like what he's saying because he really wants to know, and that's all I want to know. I just want to know as well. All my research has told me that the Earth is not a sphere, and that we're being lied to on a massive level. So I'm always hopeful when I hear things like this, because it would take somebody like him, and we'll get into it a little bit more here when he talks about some of the scientific tests that he's done. But let's go ahead and continue just hearing him answer that question there.
There you go. So yeah, you try and you put it out there, but the reality is you got to be part of the military and all these operations. It's just there's a lot of suspicious activity going on. We're just asking those questions, just like when they say that they destroyed all the telemetry data for the moon landing. They said they destroyed it or they can't find it. That's the greatest achievement of mankind's history. And you're telling me it's not an SD card reader. This is like reels of data, 400 boxes. They lost.
You know what they think happened to the original moon tapes? Is they might have been taped over. It's not a cassette, it's not an old mixtape from college.
We've been unable to track it down.
And as I said, even if we had it, we don't have the machines to play it back.
So yeah, I mean, that's just such a big point that people need to get, and I think you guys go into it a little bit here. We'll go ahead and let this play out, because what you're talking about is, if people still believe we went to the moon and they still trust NASA to the point where they think we went to the moon 50 years ago, we haven't been further than 250 miles since, even though we went 240,000 miles back with the 1969 technology, which literally is the amount of memory in a Game Boy, the original Game Boy. Everybody has in their pockets right now more computing power on your iPhone or your Android phone than was in the entire NASA facility combined. And so when you start to hear that stuff and you realize that technology grows, technology gets easier, technology gets more efficient, things get cheaper, but the one thing that has been held back for 50 years is space travel. They're not going anywhere. They're not doing anything. Now everything's done with electronics, and here, Japan landed this craft on this asteroid far away, and here we can show you these digital images, and we've got a rover on Mars, and here we can show you these images that get sent back through 100 million mile Wi-Fi. But let's go ahead and continue, because I think you guys are making great points here.
Well, someone got fired. Someone got fired for sure. I mean, that's crazy. This is all the data that would support the altitude, gas mile, everything on the moon. They don't know where it is, or some other people are saying we destroyed it.
So all right, so then moon landing was fake.
Absolutely, 100%.
100%.
Couldn't disagree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more on that one. Yeah, the moon landing is, if you look into it, just do your own research. Again, don't believe me. don't trust me. You need to go look for yourself at all the footage and really start to understand what they're saying. That this craft, I'm sure you've seen the LEM before, with 1/8 of an inch thick walls made of tinfoil that we've heard last week on Globebusters or the week before, that the guy says you could take your finger and poke right through it. And yet this craft went through the Van Allen belts, traveled 248,000 miles, landed on a foreign body, and then all the guys got out, played golf, looked around, grabbed some rocks, and then that thing took off again from the moon. And people are going crazy even today that Elon Musk is landing these rockets again once they take off. But you have to think these rockets are going up not more than 40 or 50 miles, turning around and coming right back. But they don't even have people inside them. Yet 50 years ago, they sent a rocket 250,000 miles into the blackness of space, into a foreign body where there's no atmosphere, and that thing landed with people in it. And then the people got out, and then they got back in and launched again from that same craft to reconnect with the lunar, the thing that was in orbit, whatever. So,
exactly. Yeah. And that's the things that are going to get people's attention. And what I can say and what I do believe is that Logan's documentary is going to get a lot of people looking into the moon landing and also Antarctica, because I think those are the two pivotal points when it comes to if they didn't go to the moon, how far can they go? Why would they lie? But it was interesting in our discussion, he really brought these out, and I think they're going to be heavily featured in his documentary, and that's where it got a lot of us. Wait a minute, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was the moon landing for me that got it, because once you realize that even if you believe in the moon landing, so let's say that you do believe that we went to the moon, you yourself have to recognize that there's been no person who's stood with a camera and taken a photograph of the Earth since 1972. Okay, that was the last time that supposedly a human being took a picture of the spherical Earth. That's even if you believe in the moon landings. So then if you're like me and you've looked into the moon landings and you no longer think that we went, then all of a sudden you have to realize that there's no human being in the history of this Earth that has ever been able to take a photograph of the spherical Earth. So once you start realizing that, and you start looking at all these pictures that come back from NASA and all these CGI images of Pluto and these rovers so-called on Mars that are running off of solar power for years on end without any issue, and some pictures you'll get and the whole thing is covered in dust, and then 2 weeks later here comes some pictures and the whole thing is not covered in dust. Who's there cleaning this this Mars rover? So once you start realizing these things and you realize that there is no photographs of Earth and that they are all composites taken from slightly above the Earth, then people might start to realize why we believe that the Earth could possibly be flat. So let's continue on. We're going to go to 14 minutes. You do a great little segment here where you guys do discuss, or I think you just input clips of the video. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon, which is one of the things that people need to see, that this craft is supposedly in orbit. Well, it's actually on the way to the moon, supposedly. It's supposed to be some 100,000 miles away. And what they're actually doing is they've actually placed themselves on the other side of the craft, and they're showing through a window and calling that the Earth. But you can see people moving back and forth, and they're in front of the Earth, and that wouldn't be the case at all if what we're saying or what they're trying to show in that movie is true, which is that they're showing it from the other side of the craft, that they're looking through a window and calling that round window the Earth. Huge problem, so definitely check out that video. I think we lost him again. I don't know what's going on. We will try him again. I have no idea what's going on. My internet seems to be good. Everything seems to be running okay, so I'm not sure.
As I said, this is the first time this has ever happened in the history of 4 years of any interview I've ever done. I've never had this happen, so I'm not sure what's going on. I've tried on my phone and also my desktop, so we'll just continue on.
We'll just continue. It seems like we're getting through it anyway. So anyway, we're going to go to 14 minutes. I thought it was interesting when they start talking about the edge. Because it's something you hear a lot of people say. A lot of people who get into flat Earth for the first time are all saying, well, why is there no picture of the edge? Why haven't you gone to the edge and taken a photo? You'd be the most famous person in the world. So let's go ahead and hear that out.
Yeah, I need that. Okay, all right. So let's go back down to Earth for a second.
All right.
The edge.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No, and I don't believe that there is an edge per se. There's nothing that can fall over the edge, right? Well, what most flat earthers believe is that if you take, say, a globe and you squish it down, Antarctica becomes kind of like an ice shore. It's what keeps the oceans in. But what's really intriguing here, and this is another area where I tell people to go research, the Antarctica Treaty. Here's the crazy thing. 40 countries signed a peace treaty, and it's the longest standing peace treaty that no one's ever broken, and it says that only military and science can go there. It's the only country in the world that's not owned by anyone. Now, you can get a flight, you can get it booked, get down there, they're gonna take a picture with the penguin, they'll take you to a ceremonial pole. But you say, hey dude, I wanna grab a backpack, I wanna go explore. You won't be allowed.
Really?
It is guarded big time, and we're blown away because we try this, and we encourage anyone, do it yourself.
I feel like if I did that, I would be the person to hike across Antarctica and die via frozen.
But let's say you had the provision.
Which, for the record, happened 2 years ago or whatever, when that Henry Worrelson supposedly was trying to cross Antarctica, and then he got to like real close to being across it and then died. But again, these are definitely ways that would keep people from going and trying this feat. Now, I think the great thing about Logan Paul, again, I'm erring on the side of in favor of him, because I basically am saying that he's the kind of person that we would need to go do something like this. I mean, he would have the kind of money he could probably get.
I was trying to provoke him. My
Right,
strategy
that's
was like, you're Logan Paul, and I know your attitude and your personality. And I'm like, they're not going to allow you. And he's like, dude, no one's going to tell me what I can and can't look into. I mean, I'm not sure if it's in the interview, but he did tell me that a couple of times. I was telling him the flack he was going to come under. And he's like, look, man, he goes, no one's telling me what I can and can't talk about or look into, right? So I think he stands by that. And, if you really get to know Logan, I believe that I did get to know, Logan the person, not the YouTuber. There was a lot of genuine things that we talked about even off camera. So again, I'm always prepared for the worst. But what I'm saying is I definitely think that he's trying to.
Yeah, and I'm the kind of guy that says, let's wait and find out. Let's wait and see. I think that we have lost Robbie again. I don't know. Okay, poor network connection. Don't know what's going on with that, so I'm going to go ahead and call him back here in a second.
A lot of people.
All right, you're back. I think we lost you for a little while again, but let's continue. I wanted to hear about another minute of this. Here we go.
Let's just say you got all the provisions, you got crews, you got food, you're good. Try to do it. Put it out
Don't
there.
say that to me, because I will.
You won't die.
I'm that guy.
Try it.
I'm that.
Because you're going to be turned away, and that's going to make you even more of a believer. Like, wait a minute, why is this the only place on earth I can't go venture? Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Okay, so because the edge is like the big sticking point. It's like, whoa, what happens at the edge? Don't you think there'd be one crazy person who would attempt, like a me, for example, that was maybe slightly less smarter, who's like, I'm gonna go there.
If you start researching it, you'll find there's people that they've been turned away, and they've actually, through military action, you won't be able to do it. Now, you need permission just to go there. So you just try to book a flight to Antarctica, you can't. You're gonna have to get permission first, but you will. You'll get it. They'll take you to a ceremonial pole, say it's the South Pole. You can take a picture with a penguin or whatever. You're not allowed to go backpacking.
Side note.
So I think that that was well said. Like you said, I like that you were poking the bear a little bit there and trying to get him to be the one to go do that, because we need somebody to do it, and it's going to take somebody who has finances, somebody who can get a team, somebody who can, because it's not as easy as people think. You cannot just strap on a backpack and go cross Antarctica. It's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. You're going to need some sort of support. So hopefully he, if he looks into it enough, he will find out that he can't go down there, and then they'll eventually say, okay, you can go down there, but you have to follow this exact rule. You have to go on this exact path. And hopefully he starts to realize that that's what we've been saying, is that, of course, they can take you to a place in Antarctica and tell you that that's the South Pole. Of course, they can take you to that ceremonial spot and have you take pictures with penguins. Of course they can do that. That's not even out of the question. The question is, why can't somebody go down there and investigate things themselves? If it were, as flat earthers say, that Antarctica is kind of the edge, is the outer edge of the Earth, then they're going to be able to stop people from going too far in. And again, I've showed it with the ZQ pilot who broke the world record for fastest plane to circumnavigate north-south. And I've shown it many times on my channel that he went from Brazil to the South Pole, turned around and went back to Brazil, and then flew from Brazil to New Zealand, and then New Zealand up to Alaska, and so on and so forth, and they gave him the record. And that's simply not circumnavigation. And anybody who considers that circumnavigation is confused about how the globe works and how the flat Earth works. It can absolutely work what he did on a flat Earth. He did not go across the Antarctic, and nobody does, and no planes do. And again, you'll have people say, oh, well, the temperature is too crazy there, it's too cold. It's like, nope, the plane is up high enough that the temperature doesn't make a difference on the ground, and we should have planes going across there, and we simply don't have it. So let's continue. I have it going to about 16:20 here. I think it's interesting to start talking about the moon here, so let's listen to that.
Do you acknowledge that the moon is spherical?
It definitely could be. I mean, like here's one of the things. The fact that they say the Earth is a planet, I think that's the biggest disconnect and that's the biggest lie. We are different from everything we see in the sky. Sure, everything in the sky could be spherical, maybe not. We have no 100% reason not to believe that they aren't. Maybe they're discs, maybe they're... The reality is this, though. This, what we're on right now, is not the same as everything we see in the sky.
That's perfectly said. Really well said. It's something I've been saying forever, that I believe that the Earth is all that there is. And I think you do a good job of conveying that here, that they've simply taken the lights in the sky and said, oh, we're just like all those, and we're a sphere like all the things that we see in the sky. Even though, Vsauce has said it before, I put it in one of my recent videos, that even with the best telescopes that we have on Earth, even the most giant telescopes, that no star has ever been seen as anything more than a point of light. And yet they're telling everybody that these are other suns and that they're spherical and that they've got planets going around them, and nobody's ever seen any of that. Nothing. There's no telescope that can see that far. These are just lights in the sky. Let's continue.
Really? Absolutely. Because
How
again,
is that
try this. Just imagine there's no space. Because the minute you start comprehending these things, you're thinking of space. Think of, like, you seen the Truman Show with, like, Jim Carrey?
Yeah.
Yeah, think of that on a large scale. There is no, he's contained in there. Everything's there, lights, whatever. I'm not saying it's all just lights, but what I'm saying is his worldview was presented from an early age. And all he understood is what he grew up in. So what I'm saying is, what if the Earth is created the same way? And even if you try, it's very hard to go this way, and it's very hard to go up. They've got those things locked down.
I'm like, man, I'm sitting here and I'm kind of under the mindset of, like, what if they're right?
What if?
I don't know, bro. You would hate, like, when I go to space and they send me up in the shuttle and I see a pancake, I'm just gonna be like, right.
Well, let's stop him there and make sure that he understands that they can't send you up in a shuttle because NASA has grounded all the shuttles. So imagine we had not just one, not just two, we had about 5 or 6 or 7 before 2 of them blew up. But even if after that, we had 4 space shuttles that could literally get people, according to their beliefs, to the space station. So we had an airplane, it was a shuttle that you could put up to 7 or 8 people in, all kinds of equipment, send that, it could dock to the space station, they would get out, they'd do some stuff in the space station, and they could take off and come back to Earth. But now imagine that every single one of those has been grounded. There is no more shuttles. Now we pay $87 million a seat to send people to space through Russia. So it's so ridiculous that you would ever do that. Imagine how much would it cost. What was wrong with the shuttles? They obviously could get to the space station and dock just fine. So what would be so wrong with them that we would need to just scrap them all and put them all in museums, and now there's no way for the United States to get to space? It's all ridiculous. So I just thought it was funny for him to bring up and say, well, if they put me in a shuttle, well, they can't put you in a shuttle because there is no shuttles. So they've been, grounded, and all the taxpayer money that went into those shuttles has been wasted. It's gone. They don't use them anymore. Let's continue on here.
Robbie, this guy, he knew. And that, that's what...
Rewind that a little bit because it's pretty funny. Here we go.
I don't know, bro. You would hate, when I go to space and they send me up in the shuttle and I see a pancake, I'm just gonna be like, Robbie, this guy, he knew. And that, that's what scares me, because I don't like being ignorant. I don't.
Well, it's great. You're here. You have an open mind. You're just trying to learn, take it all in. Again, for us, we're always saying, listen, man, don't believe a word I'm saying. Go research it yourself.
Beautiful. Again, Robbie, I just had to point that out to everyone so that they can hear that nobody's saying, believe us, trust us, we're right, you're wrong. He's saying, don't believe me. Go look into it yourself. And my hope would be that he would recognize some things. If he does get a chance to go to so-called space, what kind of helmet do they put on him? Put on the helmet first and look at the world around you and see if it starts to bend those corners back. Because, again, I've mentioned it a million times, our eyes are spherical. Anywhere you look, the only way you can see straight is when you look at your line of sight, that radius of the circle, which is your view circle. That radius that is your line of sight is only going to be flat or straight ahead right in front of you. And then everything to your right and left will always be pulled back. It's the way our eyes work. You can go outside and look at your neighborhood right now, look at anything with your eyes, you're going to see it. It also is true with any camera. Any camera is spherical. It's got a spherical lens. That's the way that they work. And again, you're not going to just see. So my hope would be if he ever did go up, that he recognizes, hey, did they put a helmet on me? Are these windows curved? Are they gonna, because you know what, it'd be very easy to do that, to just make sure everybody that goes up to so-called space, and I'm talking about these people that are on Virgin Galactic's Spaceship One, or all these things that go up and are just glorified parabolic flights. If you go up that high and you've got a helmet on and the helmet pulls things in your right and left back, you might get up there and see what you think is a sphere. My hope is that somebody like this would be smart enough to recognize that and say, no, give me a different helmet. I want a helmet with a flat glass on the front. What's the window I'm going to be looking out of when I go up there? Okay, is this window curved? I'd rather a flat glass window. You're going to have to take those steps, or else you might go up there and see what you think, what your mind tells you is a sphere. But again, I don't think that's where we live.
I think Logan also, as far as many people have the same idea, that he's still thinking of that meme of that flat pancake.
Right.
And I think when we're able to educate people, regardless of what angle they're coming at, I mean, you say, we don't believe that though.
Right.
Then over time, that's going to penetrate, and at least they'll get to a point where they're like, yeah, no, guys, they don't believe in that pancake stuff. You know?
Yeah, we don't, because they've taught everybody that that's what the flat Earth is something in space, that you could just go to the edge and fall off into space, and nobody believes that. Again, maybe some people do. I don't know what other flat earthers believe. For me, myself, the Earth is all there is. The Earth is the apple of God's eye. It is the focus of attention. It is the reason, and everything orbits around us, above us, and that's what I believe, because I've never been shown any proof or any evidence that leads me to believe that other places exist, unless you believe in the moon landings, and we talked about that earlier. But I don't believe that anybody's ever been to the moon. I believe it was done on a soundstage. Let's continue a little bit here. I like what he starts talking about, some of these scientific experiments that he thinks he's done, because I'm kind of in the same boat. So let's have a listen.
Well, we've done some experiments.
Okay.
I just don't know if they're like.
Which experiments have you done?
Like, we were on a plane and Mike held like a string up to the window. He's like, "Oh, it's flat." Look, he brought a level on the plane in. Yes, it appears flat, but like, I just don't know if the experiments are scientific enough.
Yeah, and they're sending balloons up without.
And so I think that that's important, and I don't think people truly understand that either. And my issue with some of my experiments that I'm trying to do is that these experiments, when you have no budget, are impossible. They're just really difficult to do. We don't have the equipment. I don't have the laser that I need to do the laser test experiment that I think would very definitively show the Earth to be flat. Some of these observations that we're trying to do over huge distances, we just don't have the equipment to do it. And the problem is people like Logan Paul, for instance, they do have the money to construct good quality experiments. Same thing with Nat Geo. Same thing with the Independent Investigations Group and these other people that went down to the Salton Sea. These kind of people, they do have the funding to do the kind of experiments and tests that would need to be done to prove definitively one way or the other. The problem is that none of these tests are being done. None of these experiments are being done by anybody who has the money to do them. So my hope is that we get people like Logan Paul to, I'm going to call back here. All right, we got you again. So anyway, my hope is that we get people like Logan Paul or some of these other investigations group or Nat Geo to come out and actually do some of the experiments that we're doing that are showing the Earth to be flat, and then publicize those results, and I guarantee you that they won't do it. Let's continue on a little bit here.
GoPro lenses, because the GoPro lens distorts it. 120,000 feet.
I know.
It's flat.
I know.
So the question is, how high do we need to get to see this curvature when we should see it? And again, if you don't have a GoPro lens or a fisheye lens, because here's the crazy thing, we see all this footage, they're rising up, and at seriously, what is it, 50 feet? It's already curved. The Earth is already curved. And then they'll show this curved footage. We're like, dude, it's already curved with your lens at 50 feet.
Great thing there. And this is what people can't grasp, Robbie, or they at least don't see it like we do. When these videos come out and they say, oh, students show the curvature of the Earth, and then they've got some big view of the Earth and it's curved and everybody loves it. And then all you have to do is rewind that tape to when the balloon takes off and it's barely 50 or 100 feet off the ground and the Earth is already curved. So, it gets to the point where it just becomes ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's continue on just a little bit more. We're almost done here.
And you're going to say it's a globe? So again, there's so many problems, dude. There's so many people here that we came to this and we thought this was crazy, but it's unbelievable how much stuff. It doesn't matter what you look into, you're going to have some issues and questions. But hey, take your time, examine it. There's no rush. It's not like, hey, you got to believe this. You know what? It's great that you're just open-minded and you just want to ask questions. There's nothing wrong with asking questions. But it is scary if you think that everything you thought was true was a lie. It is frightening. It's frightening. So I hear you, man. I hear you.
Man, Robbie, I just don't know what to believe anymore.
So I'm going to move forward just a little bit to his part here.
What comes to mind?
Lie. Yeah, a lie. I think, here's the thing. This thing is placed right in kindergarten, grade 1. And kids look at it and they say, that's where you live. They don't have the reasoning ability to say, but I don't understand. How does water stick on it? Or how does it... Later in life, we are indoctrinated from such an early age. Just like Truman was presented his reality, this is stuck in every classroom, right from an early age. So that's what you see, the first thing. They have these in mobiles above cribs. While the baby's sitting there, they got like little planets going around. Dude, this is deep, man. Look into it. You're gonna be blown away at how sophisticated and how deep this lie goes. It's like you can't write this stuff. It's almost like this movie would be too good, to do, but yet Hollywood won't even touch this because you know what?
I'll touch it, Robbie. Thanks for having us too. Give us like media passes.
That was great if people missed it. He said, I'll touch it, Robbie. So I think that for anyone to say that he's not genuine, that he's not really looking into this, whether or not he's a quote-unquote flat earther or not, is not important to me. What's important is that he's looking into it, and his documentary, I think, will show some facets of that. What say you?
Yeah, and I'm still holding to the fact.
Oh, I lost you again. Robbie.
Well,
we're back. We're good. We got you. We got you. We're here. Up. We'll try one more time. If he hangs up again, we're going to tell me what's going on. All right.
It's unbelievable, but yeah. I was saying that even if it's a really huge hit piece, there's still going to be a lot of nuggets of truth in there. I don't think it's going to be to that degree, but I do think it's important, if I don't cut out, that it's important that even if it is, that I can take steps going forward that it never happens again. One being that I can make sure that all the speakers in the future all weigh in and do a vote. So if it does happen that this is horrible, going forward, it will never happen again because all the speakers will weigh in on the decision whether, we do something like that in the future.
You mean you're saying if the documentary is a bad one, that going forward you're going to explain that again because I didn't quite catch that.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's a really, really horrible piece, what I'm saying is I can't control what people do, but I can control what I do. And I'm saying that going forward, I would make sure that all the speakers vote on whether this person is good or this person is bad. What I'm saying is this was a risk I took. I felt that I'm confident on it. And overall, will everyone love what comes out? No. But overall, will it be, I think, something along the lines of Shane Dawson and get a lot of people to think? Absolutely. So I still hold to the fact that this probably will be better viewed or responded to than Behind the Curve. I mean, I'm saying that. I don't know what's going to come out, but I can definitely make sure that I apologize and make amends with the community and tell them the steps I'll take going forward, that it never happens again. At least it would be a collective, something that everyone would agree on going forward.
Yeah, and I got the same problem that I have to apologize for my behavior as far as Behind the Curve goes, because I took those people at their word, didn't think it was necessary to record anything myself, and just figured there's no way these guys are just going to flat out lie in their movie. They're not going to just misrepresent the experiment. I mean, little did I know. But I think one of the main important things that we can get from this and the way that we can change going forward is, for instance, in this interview with Logan Paul, you recorded the entire thing, correct?
And exactly. I think that's important. Whatever we do in the future, and that's why I did that, because all I can say is when the community watched my full interview, don't look at Logan Paul, whether he is trolling or not. Look at how I represented the community. Did I do a good job overall explaining to someone what we believe and what we don't? That to me is the most important, because I can't control Logan Paul, but I can control me, right? So if you're going to be nitpicky, look at kind of the example and what people are saying in front of the camera. And if we record the full entirety of it, we can never run into the problem where they chop it up. We can always show the full truth on exactly what was said. And that's what I'm going to do going forward, especially with bigger pieces that I knew were going to come out like Logan Paul's.
Me too.
And I'm sure that you've learned, to make sure that things are recorded, not just rely on documentary crews to keep the footage safe for you one day. Those days are over. So we're learning. I mean, we're maturing, we're learning, and hopefully the community will ease up a bit. Whoever wants to look into flat Earth, let's show a little bit more love and acceptance. And I mean, if they do us wrong, okay. But I'll tell you, I've seen nothing but hate when it comes to Logan Paul. And now people are just starting to ease up a little bit. They're starting to see the interview, and then also they're seeing the trailer, and they're like, wait a minute, it might not be the biggest hit piece in the world, because quote unquote, people are saying it will be the biggest hit job to date on flat Earth. And I'm telling you right now, I do not believe that will be the case.
Yeah, and all we can do is wait and see. And if, that's why we did this video tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the interview a little bit with Robbie and Logan Paul. And again, that link to the full 25-minute interview or video that Robbie did is in the description, so you can check that out and make sure you watch the entirety. And then when we see how he cuts up his version of it, we can see if it was meant to be a hit piece or not. And hopefully he is, as he's basically shown himself to be, and that's at least honestly looking into this subject, whether or not he believes it. It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of research. And like you said, I'm not sure that this guy has the time. And
no, he does. I can tell you firsthand, he does not. So his understanding of flat Earth is like not even 101. He hasn't even graduated out of 101.
Right.
This is the level that we're going to see, but it's going to be probing. It's going to be the conspiratorial. Wow, these are fascinating things. I wonder why. And basically probing all these questions, the same questions he asked, he's going to start getting that into people's heads, and that's what the media already are saying. This is dangerous. Unless Logan comes out and says, "Do not listen to flat earthers. It's wrong. It's false." Even taking a light approach, because I believe there'll be some comedy in it. I even do. It's just his personality.
Right.
But I think that he is smart enough to understand, if in his words, this is the greatest thing I've done to date. And if that's the case, and his best friend Mike is a flat earther, it's not going to be completely to make his best friend look like a fool. But he's creative enough to know that I don't want to get in too much trouble either. Let's do it in such a way that I don't fully come off and go, guys, I don't know, man. So I think he's going to go back and forth. I think at the end, it'll be open-ended. He might even say, I don't know if I believe it, but I'll tell you, they've got a lot of compelling things to look into. Maybe go do your own research. I'm not sure, but I'm not expecting the best at all. Again, this is from a vantage point of that. I just think it's fantastic that so many people are going to be woken up to the moon, to Antarctica, and also the fact, maybe the things that we don't believe. Because even in the trailer, Jaron, everything that he used of me, I mean, most of the trailer is me going, the truth will set you free, free, free. But everything that I talk about, nothing was taken out of context, and they were very favorable clips, even in the trailer.
Yeah, I thought so too. That's why I'm looking forward to it. And like we said, all we can do is just wait and see and go from there. And again, we'll learn from our mistakes and change things accordingly. This is new to all of us. It's new to Robbie. It's new to me. This is not something we expected to do. If you would have asked Robbie or I 5 years ago if we would be right here at this time, we would have laughed in your face. I mean, there's just no way.
Yeah, we're learning. I mean, we can be humble enough to admit when we're wrong. And I plan to go on Patricia's show, Globebusters, a bunch of other shows after it releases. And if I need to basically make apologies, let the community know what I'm planning to do go forward, I'll do that. Because again, I'm only human, but I want to make sure that people understand I have the best intentions for Flat Earth, and I will guard it the best I can. But again, this is only the first time. Let's just see if my intuition or my discernment was correct.
Yeah, I totally agree. And we'll look at a couple super chats real quick before we go. Earth is seriously flat said it should be to the north and back, Mount Meru. I couldn't agree with that more. I think that would be a great journey for someone also. If they don't think that they can make it to the South Pole and back, or they can't cross the Antarctic as we've been told is possible, I would love to see somebody take a trip to the North Pole. There's so many things that we've never seen before. We've never seen somebody look right up and see the North Star right above their head. They don't let anybody go there. So I agree that Mount Meru is a big one, and we want to see people get there as well. Somebody says millions are coming out of the Flat Earth closet. I think so many people are. I told Robbie a story yesterday. I was at a little restaurant and heard some people behind the counter. I still don't know for sure if they had seen me and then started talking about the Behind the Curve documentary. That's what I would assume, because the other alternative is just crazy, which is I'm just sitting in a restaurant and there was actually an employee who was working the register and another employee making burgers, and they were talking about the Behind the Curve documentary. My wife and I were sitting there listening to them like, what the hell? They're totally talking about the documentary. Now, again, I just was at the register, so I don't know if they saw me and then said, hey, let's talk about this because I've seen that movie now. Not really sure, but I do think it's out there. I do think people are talking about it a lot more.
I came to Flat Earth. Sorry to interject, but I came to Flat Earth from a video in 2007 making fun of Flat Earth. I've done it on my channel called You Won't Believe How I Came to Flat Earth. But I'm case in point. People are so scared all the time with mockumentaries or hit jobs. Understand that many, many people will get curious and start doing their own research. Even when someone puts something together to make it look like the most ridiculous thing, it's going to spark the imagination and it's going to get people pursuing truth.
Right. And that's my whole thing, and that's why I continue on my channel, is I just want people to be able to look into it. It's something that has been blocked from your mind. It's been blocked from the ability for you to even consider it. I've told a story before, and I'll tell it again just because I think it's a good story, that a guy said he was on a plane about 10 years ago, and he's looking out the window, and he was just thinking to himself, man, why does the world look flat? And he started really kind of contemplating it, and then the guy next to him starts looking out the window, and he turns to him and says, hey, man, did you ever think that the world could be flat? And the guy says, yeah, if you're an effing idiot. And the guy said immediately he shut down his thought system and just said, oh man, I'm an idiot for even thinking that. And he said for 10 years, he never even thought about the earth being flat again until he started seeing flat earth videos. And then it reminded him of that time on the airplane that he said that. And he's like, man, just that guy next to me telling me, oh, I'm an idiot for even thinking about that. He said, I spent 10 years and I never looked into it again. So I think it's important that people realize that it's okay to question what you're taught. It's okay to question what we've all been force-fed. And this is not something that should be hard for them to prove. If we live on a big giant sphere flying through space, then there should be videos of the Earth. There should be a camera on the moon showing the Earth all the time. We have a so-called craft that's supposedly in orbit 24 hours a day, yet they've never shown us 24/7 video footage of the Earth. It's just ridiculous. And so I think that these kind of things coming out, getting people the opportunity to say, hey, let me look into this, is only going to inspire more people to do what we've been doing, making videos, making channels, doing tests, doing experiments, going out and observing the world themselves. And eventually we're going to get to the truth. It may not be because of me, may not be because of Robbie or because of Logan Paul, but it will be a collective thing where we've all kind of allowed people to at least consider that maybe we've been lied to, and then they go from there. We got another super chat says, smoothest, silkiest voice ever equals Karen B. Okay, I pretty much agree with that. Games Bond 2007, thank you for that. Rhino said, so they're getting ready to experiment with blocking the sun via Forbes magazine. My grandchildren will never see the binary sun. Excellent point. I have not read that article yet, but I have heard it a few times come up, so I will definitely look into this blocking the sun. Carrie Azule said, I appreciate your work, Jaron. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. You're welcome. And Earth is Seriously Flat said, love is bombarding children's websites with flat Earth. Again, I think we all have to teach children to be more critical thinking, to be more critical thinkers. Right now, we just put them in school and tell them everything that they're told is fact, and then they come out believing that, you know, Columbus discovered America and that him and a bunch of Indians and pilgrims got together to have the Thanksgiving brunch, you know. But again, once you find out the truth of these things, then you realize that you're lied to, that everything that's taught in school is not the truth, that it's just a version of the story that they want you to know. And that's how history is. People need to look at history and recognize that's how history is, that history is the winners telling the story. And if you think that our history that we've been taught is true, you're out of your mind. I mean, you know, think what you want, but to me, it's just not the way history works. It's the winner's story. So one more time, just tell everybody where they can find you and where they can support you, Robbie.
Sure. You can go to YouTube. My YouTube channel is Celebrate Truth. Also, my website, celebratetruth.org, where you'll find my documentaries and my book, Scientism Exposed, Hiding the True Creator of Creation. If you're interested in the Flat Earth International Conference 2019 happening in Dallas, Texas, you can go to FE2018.com or flatearthconference.com. Either website will get you there, and we're going to have you back and Bob and Glowbusters and many other great speakers. I'll be making more announcements, and hopefully, if Glowbusters is happening this Sunday, we'll be doing the premiere of the brand new promo teaser for the conference that will be happening this fall.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we are having a Glowbusters this week, hopefully. If not, it'll certainly be next week. But yeah, check that out. It'd be great to have Robbie on and talk a little bit about FEIC 2019. Like he said, this year we'll be in Dallas. So come join us. It should be a fun event, and it's great just to get together with a bunch of like-minded people and hear some of the latest findings around the flat Earth. So if everybody's looking for ways to support me, you can do that by just going down to the description. All my links are there. If you'd like to send some PayPal, I'd love you for it. If you'd like to join my Patreon group, that's in the links as well. So I would appreciate all that. And besides that, I just remind you to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Everybody, till next time, this has been Jeranism and Robbie.
Peace. Take care.